Hi there, I'm Clarice and you're on the Live Ready channel. I needed a folding saw for delimbing trees and making tent pegs and toggles and things like that. And this is my criteria for having bought a Silky Pocketboy and how to use it. So using a folding saw can give a perfectly smooth cut rather than hacking away at a tree and then leaving a whole bunch of injuries that are prone to infection. And it can also give you a much better piece of wood to work with. Having said that, remember to try and direct your woodwork at the aliens in your environment rather than the indigenous plants. Now, silky saws have a great reputation if you know how to use them, and there are many different brands out there, and it's absolutely up to you what brand you prefer. But what I like about this one is because it's only 170 grams, it's easy for me to put in my bag, and because I'm usually carrying a lot of camera equipment and other equipment around, I don't want to add a large saw. Also, because I'm not planning on processing a lot of firewood with the saw, I don't need a particularly big one. This is mainly for little crafts and delimbing trees, for things like tent pegs or toggles. So my first impression with this saw was not just how small it is and how lightweight it is, but also the wonderful rubberized grip that they've put on it to make sure that it doesn't slip out of your hand, especially in wet weather. There's a tiny little notch here, like a little hole in the blade that gives you a good grip on it. As far as I know, that's the only function for it, and it just gives you a nice click when it's completely opened up. And like with all the other silky saws, there are two notches. So the first one being the straight setting, and then there's another one that puts it into like a hyper extension. And the idea behind that is just that if you're sawing at waist height, you want to put it in just the straight setting, and if you're sawing above your head or below your waist, having it in the extended position is more ergonomic and easier for you to saw. Now, the other clever thing that they've done with this blade is they've made it into a tapered grind. So the spine is a lot narrower than what the blade or the cutting part of the blade is. And the reason they've done that is that when you are busy sawing through a branch, there's less resistance between the branch and the blade, and you can get through the branch a lot easier. So these blades are made of high carbon steel, and the reason why we like that is because high carbon steel also serves as a steel striker if you're using something like flint to make fire. So it's a nice backup, and I wouldn't use it as my primary because I do think that you will damage the blade a little bit, and you would like to keep that 90-degree spine on it for your steel striker. And the 90-degree spine is also great for processing wood or bark for your tinder bundle, and you use that to scrape off that bark. So the idea behind the different sizes of teeth is that smaller teeth are great for harder wood or dry wood, and the larger teeth are good for softer wood or wet wood. Wet wood, for example, gets stuck between the teeth, and so if you're using a saw with larger teeth, it's much easier to clean and it ejects that wood a lot faster than the smaller teeth do. As with any other blade, there are some safety considerations. One of those is pets and kids, and there are a couple of things that you need to take care of when you're cutting. That's mine, thank you. You can't have that. Be sure that nothing comes into the environment when you're working with a saw, especially if you're working low to the ground like I am now. And then be careful of your follow through. So once you cut through the branch, where does your blade go? And this is something that you need to think of in advance. If I'm going to cut on my lap, I'm going to be in serious danger if that blade gets through the wood that I'm cutting and it actually goes and cuts me. Remember where your vital organs and your main arteries and veins are. Having said that, your hands are also crucial. So especially in a survival situation, the last thing you want is to injure your hands. I'm going to put the first third of my blade onto the branch that I want to saw. I'm going to create a little notch just myself to follow into, and then once I've got that little notch going, I can start using the entirety of the blade. Because these silky saws are pull saws and not push saws, You have to be sure to only pull the blade one way, otherwise you risk breaking the tip or bending the blade. And you can see that gives me a wonderfully flat and polished surface. Another way in which you can cut wood if it makes you feel a little bit more comfortable is with the plumber's vise. And basically what you do is you secure the branch that you want to cut between your knees, putting pressure on the opposite end with your hand, and then clamping down and making sure that it is stable, and then you can cut next to you without risking cutting yourself. There we go, a beautifully clean cut. Well, that's it from me. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Let me know if you've got a cool folding saw and what your preferences are, and until the next time, live ready.